Hello and welcome to Miss Austriaco's interview, who is running for District 207's board candidate on the election of April 6, 2021. Thank you for participating in this candidate interview. I will be asking a variety of questions which were developed in collaboration between the Maine West Westerner and student newspaper and Pi Sigma Pi Social Science Honor Society. You will have 2 minutes to share your answer to each one. When the 2 minutes have passed, I ask that you only take a few seconds to finish your thought so we can move on to the next question.
Okay.
So we're going to start with question 1. If you had 2 minutes to address to the people of Des Plaines, what would you say?
Thank you, Maha, for hosting this conversation. My name is Aurora Austriaco, and I'm currently a District 207 school board member, and I'm running for re-election for the second term. Prior to being elected as a school board member, I served on the District 207 Community Advisory Board for several years, so I understand what the needs are of the students, staff, and teachers at District 207. My background is I'm a commercial litigation attorney at an all-women-owned law firm, Valentine Austriaco and Bichel. Been practicing for 30 years, and a graduate of DePaul undergrad in law school. I live in Park Ridge and I've been a resident for 25 years, married for 28 years. We have 2 daughters who graduated from Maine South, and we're very involved in various after-school programs, including the Principals Advisory Council, the Maine South Hawkette program, and several others. I'm very active in the community as well as in various not-for-profit boards. I am the current president for the school board. I served as chair of the education committee, served on the finance committee, the buildings and grounds committee, the policy committee, the ad hoc committee, and also I served as representative to the EdRed committee. I also served as commissioner for the Park Ridge Planning and Zoning Commission for over 7 years, served as past president of the Maine South Hawkette Booster Board. I also served as past president of the Chicago Bar Association, which is the oldest and largest metropolitan bar association in the country. Served as commissioner for Cook County Human Rights for many, many years, and several other boards like the Asian American Coalition and the Chicago Bar Foundation. I'm very proud of Maine Township District 207 for all the innovative educational programs and resources that it provides to our students and their career future. It is so important that we continue to find ways to better serve and meet our students' needs. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much for your reply. We will move on to our second question. Some students say that between the pandemic and our past experiences with school shooter drills, school is kind of a scary place. What concrete things can be done to make school feel both safe and welcoming?
That is such a great question, Maha. District 207 takes its obligation and charge seriously to provide a safe and welcoming environment to students at all times. As a matter of fact, it is one of our North Stars. District 207 was one of the first districts anywhere to run a daily early warning system to attend to student needs of all types. And we've made that a focus long before the pandemic, but especially during the pandemic, we've worked hard to have a culture of care for students. For a welcoming and safe environment during the pandemic, District 207 has provided free meals 7 days a week for all kids 18 and under without any question. We've provided free internet or Wi-Fi hotspots or low-cost internet access to students who need those, especially with virtual learning. Those are really critical tools to have. There are counselors available for emotional social support that's available to all students, and you can go to the website to go out and get that. We've signed a new agreement with the school resource officer. We have our school-based health clinics at Maine East, and I'm we're very proud of that because that clinic provides medical and mental health screening and treatment for young people who might otherwise not have access to primary care. Short of it is District 207 has created a welcoming culture by creating systems of social, emotional, and academic support as part of its equity mission.
Thank you so much for your reply. We will now move on to our third question. As always, you will get 2 minutes to answer. What can be done to promote equality in schools, especially with regards to race, sexual identity, and gender identity?
Maha, I think it's important to understand and to realize that, yes, we want to make sure there is equality and equity in whatever we do. But for, for purposes of our discussion, I think I'd like to give a definition of what equity is. Equity is a guarantee of fair treatment, access, opportunity, and advancement for all, while striving to identify and eliminate barriers that have prevented full participation of some groups. And I'm proud to say that District 207 has made that a mission, equity, a part of its mission. District 207 developed an equity mission statement and developed policies on equity. And, just for the viewers and listeners, I'd like to just read what the equity mission statement is. We recognize, embrace, and defend the identities, abilities, and voices of our diverse community. We value these multiple and unique identities, abilities, and voices as assets, and we commit to an equitable and inclusive learning environment. Having the students organized against racism, which is SOAR, that group in each building is a big step forward, as well as the district equity teams and strong board support for a commitment to serve every student, regardless of background, with the best possible support and service. And I think I have more time, so I'm just going to go ahead and read some of the equity policies that you will find on the website. But some of them are developing an accessible, culturally responsive curriculum that builds upon student experiences and their social capital and is reflective of their unique intersecting identities. Focusing on responsible decision-making and relationship building so that all students feel valued and connected to the larger community. Examining data on systems of oppression in order to use this information to make necessary adjustments that ensure equitable academic, social, emotional, and career outcomes for all students. And the list goes on. So if anyone is interested, it is all at the District 207 website.
Alrighty, thank you so much for your answer. I would now like you to consider our fourth question. Our fourth question is, some classes and areas of the building feel very crowded even during a normal year. For the safety of all students now and in the future, what long-term adjustments to the classrooms, building spaces, or class enrollment numbers could help lessen the risks to everyone's health and safety?
Maha, as you well know, all three of our high schools are undergoing major building projects, which when completed will show that focuses on interactive and neighborhood spaces with a focus on working together in teams rather than apart or isolated from each other. We are always looking at how best to allocate resources to have enough space and support for each student, as well as provide a safe school environment to our students. I want to say, if you haven't done it already, drive by the schools and just look at the construction that's going on. Or if you want a better view, you can go to the website and do the virtual tour of the work that's done to date. And it is really exciting how it's coming out and how it's being developed, so that what you have is a structure and an open space that actually allows for really interactive and neighborhood spaces for staff and students. I want to just mention a few because I did the tour and I also did the virtual tour. I'm just going to say that the rooms that were that they went through showed the interactive work with students at Main East, the special ed room. They're teaching the students to be independent, to be able to live on their own and function on their own. The addition of the athletic rooms, where the weight room, the cardio room is just in one space. At Main South, you build a space designed from multi-use. There's a multi-tiered systems of support, different breakout rooms for tutoring and targeted help for students, food labs, a lot of open middle spaces for students and staff. And then at Maine West, you've got career and technical, rooms that are built out with equipment and high-tech information, entrepreneurial lab, and idea paint walls, which allow for breakout sessions for kids. So there's so much in there, and I think once the schools are done, all the students, staff, and teachers will really find them to be really accessible, interactive, and very useful.
Thank you so much for your response. I would like you to consider our fifth question. We'd like to know that students feel pressure to take AP classes, even as freshmen coming into the system when they take AP World History. It's usually harder to drop AP classes from your schedule than regular classes, which sometimes can make students feel stuck. What are your thoughts about these issues?
The district, and many of you have heard this from our superintendent, Dr. Wallace, that we are moving more and more to dual credit courses and away from AP because we believe it serves our students better in the long run, especially in their career goals. The other mission of that, and as part of our commitment to equity, the long-term commitment to get students who previously were segregated away for our most challenging courses into those courses because we want all students to have the opportunity to earn college credits while in high school, not just students who have always been advantaged in this way. And this helps families financially since these students are able to earn college credits while in high school, thus lessening the financial burden to families while the student is in college. And to answer your question about, dropping classes, AP classes, I mean, students can drop courses under the right circumstances, but it's also important to know that the district allocates resources to hire teachers for those classes based on the enrollment numbers. So to answer the question, it is, it's a fine balance that we need to achieve.
All right, thank you for your reply. We will now shift to our sixth question. For our sixth question, please explain what would you take from the remote learning environment and integrate into the typical learning experience?
Sorry,
No worries.
I accidentally pressed that. If anything, the pandemic has thrown us a curveball. I mean, no one expected this. And if anything, it has taught us to be flexible, to be nimble, and to try to meet the needs of students and staff in a fast, efficient, and safe way. We also learned that with this pandemic, it has forced us to realize that as we move forward, we will need to continue to do some elements of virtual learning and expand those types of virtual learning in ways that will serve the students and staff post-pandemic. During the pandemic, we also realized that some students didn't have access to the internet. And in a remote learning setting, this, as I mentioned before, is really crucial. So as a result, the district has taken necessary steps to provide the free Wi-Fi hotspots or provide low-cost internet access to these students. It's going to be a lot of expansive learning using the remote learning environment, and I think we can accomplish that in the future.
Sounds good. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. We will now shift to our seventh question. We would like to know, how would you include student perspectives when making decisions about academics, extracurriculars, and other aspects of daily life at school?
I think the district has been really good in listening to students and the perspectives that they bring. We have remade our entire building leadership teams to be more engaging with students and their perspectives, and to be more restorative in discipline practices. We'll listen so we can provide an environment for students to be great learners. To answer this question, Maha, I want to quote something that is in the District 207 website, which I think really answers the core of this question. Maine Township District 207 believes that it is our duty to not only prepare our students for the next stage of their education, but to prepare students to pursue that education in the context of their career interests. To that end, each of our students engage in a career exploration program that helps them learn about their aptitudes and interests, explore careers that complement those individual characteristics and proclivities, explore post-secondary educational requirements associated with those careers, and determine a pathway to reach career goal. Our focus at District 207 is making sure that we are listening to the students and we are providing the necessary tools and education learning environment that is best for them to learn.
Sounds good. Thank you so much for your answer. Let's move on to our next question. As always, you have 2 minutes to share your answer. For our 8th question, I will be asking, how will you hear from teachers and staff about what works best to make their classes successful?
I'm sure you've heard this, and many of you have heard this, but Dr. Wallace and the District 207 created a great adult learning and coaching program that's virtually 100% teacher-led, and which has a great impact on all of our classroom designs. Maine Township District 207's adult learning and coaching program is a model that focuses on the adults as a way to address inequity and instructional improvement. It identifies learning pathways to define how educators would meet the academic and social emotional needs of students. Too often we focus only on doing something to culturally and linguistically diverse students without changing ourselves, especially when our students are dependent learners who are not able to access their full academic potential on their own. So to answer that question further, I believe the district, and I know the district, will continue to work toward designing schools that meet the needs of every learner so that we focus on our students' abilities to succeed well beyond high school. I think this is the adult learning and coaching program that we have is a model that's being replicated throughout the country, and I think it's a really important aspect of the relationship and the interaction between the students and the teachers, and really providing meeting the needs of the students based on that curriculum.
Sounds good. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. We will now move on to our 9th question. We would like you to consider that currently many students feel it is more important to keep people safe and healthy, even if that means not everyone can be in person all of the time. With colds and the flu being passed around and causing many absences even in a normal year, what would you have learned from this year that could make our school safer and healthier?
So let's start with the pandemic again, following the CDC guidelines and state of Illinois guidelines, making sure that we're wearing our masks, socially distancing ourselves, and really being careful of how we interact in a big social setting. So we want to make sure that we are in compliance with all of those. The other thing is virtual classes are likely something that will always be a part of how we do school moving forward for that very reason. We don't know when we're going to be 100% together where everyone is in one space. So it's safe to say that it is a good prediction that yes, virtual learning will be here to stay with us for some time. We plan to grow virtual learning opportunities for students whose lives and situations are actually more compatible to having virtual learning for those students. I think it's not just in schools. in our daily lives at work, where I'm working right now. I mean, we do remote work as an attorney. We go to Zoom court hearings. We have depositions through virtual depositions. So I think this virtual learning environment is something that will be here for us, and it's up to us and the District 207 to make sure that the learning capabilities and the learning tools that we're providing our students in this virtual learning is really there to make sure that students are learning the right way.
All right, thank you so much for your answer. We will now turn to our 10th question of the day, and that is, in light of the mental health issues many students have faced in a more intensified way because of the pandemic, as you've mentioned, how will you adjust to the schedule or create opportunities for students to get help or have space to deal with those issues? What kinds of actions will you take to prioritize student mental health during the school year? Even in a non-pandemic year, this is a concern for many students.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Mara. This is such an important question to ask, and you're right. Even before the pandemic, this is an issue that we all are dealing with and have been dealing with. And pandemic has put it out more in the forefront and really heightened the awareness for this. And there's no doubt that this pandemic has created a lot of angst, stress, and strain on the mental wellness and well-being of our students. The fact that they're not able to be in school in person to learn or be with their peers for social growth, or that they're not able to do after-school programs in person. I mean, just to name a few of the things that would have been done in person are really, really difficult for our students. District 207 is aware of this, and the redesign of our leadership team was to improve in our ability to address this issue. But the district currently has resources available to the students. Like, for instance, District 207 school-based health center located at Main East provides medical and mental health screening and treatment for District 207 students. We also have the District 207 has created a social emotional help on the website. It is virtual, where counselors, social workers, and psychologists are available to students whenever they need them. And obviously, counselors are available at all three schools for students. So there are a lot of resources that can be provided to the students. We have them available on the website, District 207. But this is definitely an issue that even after we've completed the pandemic, it's an issue that we're going to have to be dealing with and talking about, and I think appropriately so.
Alrighty, thank you so much for your response. Now we will be moving on to our 11th question. What would you like to tell your voters about your biggest priorities with regards to spending the school district's budget?
So it's I mentioned earlier that we have this renovation going on at all three high schools. We passed a referendum for the capital improvements, and the remaking of the buildings is a huge spending priority for District 207. But I'm also very happy to say that we are below budget due to the oversight of the finances in the project by our superintendent and Mary Kalu and the board. As a matter of fact, we're always made aware of where our spending is going during the construction of those buildings. The other thing is staff are always the biggest resource allocation of our budget. That's about 80% of our budget. And then third is technology upgrades. That's so important right now because it's always been important, even before pandemic, that we have the right tools and the right technology that we're using for our students. But now that we have the pandemic, it's even made it more obvious that we need to spend the money to make sure that we have technology upgrades so that our students are able to access, the curriculum or the teachings or the learnings and be able to connect while classes are going on, virtually. So those are the three that I could think of right now as priorities for District 207. Obviously, the equity commitment of District 207 is one that's also very, very important, and that is something that we would be looking at in terms of part of the budget.
Thank you so much for sharing your ideas and thoughts. We have just 2 questions left. For our 11th question, we will be asking, for the 12th question actually, we will be asking, given the demographics at each school, which are very different both economically and culturally, how will you ensure that all students will receive an equal education regardless of zip code?
Yeah, before I answer the question, I want to go back a little bit to question number 11, Maha, because I just want to make sure, and I want everyone to be aware that, as school board members, we take seriously our charge and our obligation of protecting the district's assets and the funds which belong to the taxpayers of Maine Township. So we make sure that every dollar is spent wisely and efficiently, and that we are watching, what is spent in the budget. So anyway, to answer your question, given that the demographics at each school are different, how to ensure that all students will receive an equal education. We have allocated resources to serve our students in equitable ways, and that is part of our commitment to, the equity mission that I had mentioned earlier. We have always spent more per pupil at East and West, even before the law changed to require it. So we're very proud of this. As mentioned earlier also, the adult learning and coaching discussion, where the district made a commitment over a decade ago to make sure that our traditionally underserved students have the same access, as well as strategic supports, to not only take our most rigorous courses, but to also succeed in those courses. Proud to say that today we have more students of every ethnicity taking accelerated AP and dual credit college courses and succeeding in those courses in district history. So that is, a really good way to show that we are making sure that every student gets equal access to all the programs that we have, regardless of what zip code you live in and regardless of what ethnic background you belong to.
Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts on that. We will now shift to our last question of the day. Please share with your voters in response to our 13th question, which is there anything else you would like them to know?
Yeah, maybe I should finish what I ran out of time with in the beginning to answer question number 1. It is truly an honor for me to serve as District 207 school board member. I take seriously our obligation to ensure that we are providing the best education and a great learning environment for our students at all 3 high schools, Maine East, Maine West, and Maine South, while being accountable for the taxpayers' money and obviously accounting for each and every dollar that we spend. I'm a huge advocate for public education and the importance of having access to all programs that District 207 has to offer to all our students in an equitable and inclusive learning environment. If you're old enough to vote, I would love to have your vote. If you haven't registered and you have the ability to vote and register, please make sure you register and you vote and you exercise your right to that voice. If you have family and friends who haven't registered, make sure you have them and help them register, and do exercise your right to vote, because that is really the voice that you can have in this election. So thank you. I hope I can come back to you in 4 years. I hope I do get reelected so that we can continue with the work that we have started since 2016, and moving forward. So thank you, Maha, so much. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to meet with you and to answer any questions that you have for me.
Thank you so much for sharing your story. This concludes our interview questions. Ms. Austriaco, if more voters want to find out more information about your platforms and continued plans, what would be the best way to find out more details?
Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and get my website up and running. So it's going to be Vote Aurora Austriaco for School Board. Otherwise, you can send me an email at austriaco@gmail.com. Again, austriaco@gmail.com.
All right, great. Thank you again for your participation in this interview and for your interest in serving our community.
Thank you so much, Ma, and thank you for doing this. This is an important component of our community learning about the candidates who are representing them, particularly on the school board. So thank you.